Okay, and it looks like we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. If you're joining for the second time, I apologize for the little blip in technology there. What would a science and technology video series be without technological hiccups? My name is Ben Jusela. I'm a technical application scientist at In Vivo Biosystems, formerly known as Metrics. And today I have the pleasure of hosting Divyanka Gupta, PharmD. She is going to be telling us today about her career from PharmD to regulatory writing. She's going to be telling us about using her YouTube channel as a form of outreach for helping people navigate the career options and choices in pharmacy, and talking about job hunting in the time of COVID. So with that, I am going to go ahead and start our 17-minute timer for 17 minutes of science. Thank you and welcome, Divyanka.
Thank you, Ben. No worries on the side of tech difficulties, happens all the time, but I am really excited to be here. Thank you for everyone for making it happen, everyone behind the scenes, and of course for you to be here.
Well, we are very excited to have you and thank you for joining us today. You are working as a regulatory writer for a company called Aura Inc. So what do you do as a regulatory writer, and what sort of led you towards that career choice?
Yeah, I'll answer the second part first. I would say I had a pretty unconventional route towards regulatory writing. Because I start as a PharmD, like you've mentioned. So most PharmDs or pharmacists obviously work in either retail or a hospital setting, and that's where you probably see them most in your daily life. But we can work in a lot of other different realms, and one of them is the pharmaceutical industry. So I've kind of always been interested in that for a couple of years now, and had been making my way to work in the pharmaceutical industry. But I had always targeted medical affairs, which would, I guess, stem into medical writing. So that's kind of where my interest peaked. And through the job search and through the many last months, that kind of led me to this regulatory writing position. And this position itself is kind of 60-40, 70-30 in terms of reg writing and medical writing, just because those skills are, necessary as a base. So that is what led me to this position specifically in terms of my experience. In terms of what I do, mainly we write documents for all the required documents for pharma companies that need to be submitted to the FDA, from your pre-IND to submission for an FDA approval after your phase 3, et cetera, et cetera. So all the documents in between, I'm definitely learning a lot still, but we get to touch kind of all phases of the process depending on what our clients are working on. And kind of just to highlight exactly where I work, or as a CRO, so that stands for a contract research organization. And so our clients are pharma. So I work with many different pharmaceutical companies to, again, some of them are starting phase 1 trials, some of them are starting different trials, some of them are just wanting a pre-IND. So it's different phases, and it's a lot to learn, but that's kind of in a nutshell what I do.
Okay, very cool. Especially the component about being able to actually kind of see it from start to finish. It's really cool, just insight into the process. And that's kind of a black box for, I feel like, anybody who is not directly involved in that. We hear about, clinical trials and, regulatory hurdles, but not actually the inner workings of it.
And I'm just learning myself. I've only been here for 2 months, so check back in with me maybe next year. We'll see what changes. But no, it's been a great ride so far. And I think it's really essential, like you said, it's kind of the apex of the industry. Like everything needs to be approved by the FDA, of course. And whether you're working on the bench or you're working, actually dispensing the drugs, you kind of need to know that base of the process. So it's kind of cool learning the foundations.
Yeah. So what sort of led you down that path, and what sort of experiences did you need to acquire before you were even able to move towards regulatory writing?
Yeah. So again, I definitely took an unconventional route. In pharmacy school, my first experience was as a pharmacy technician, and that's basically what every pharmacy student does. But within a few months, I was looking for something more challenging. So I actually landed on the bench at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute here in Boston for a couple of years. And that's also something that pharmacy students don't necessarily do because, as you probably know, bench is the bench science part of things is definitely like MD, PhD route more so. So that was definitely different, but that's what actually led me into the pharma industry because we were working with GSK at the time on some, really early development product. And I was like, oh, like the scientists who were coming from GSK, I was like, oh, what do you do? And when I was like, oh, what they do kind of relates to, where PharmD can land, I looked more into it and then got involved in the industry pharmacist organization, and once I had piqued my interest there, I looked for internships, and I had my first internship at Celgene, which is now BMS or part of BMS, and that was in medical affairs. And I kind of went into that internship for the summer knowing that this is what I want to do and knowing that there are many departments I could land up in. And so using that summer to really decide or at least gain as much experience as I could in terms of what I wanted to do, post grad. And so that definitely was a kind of a turning point, I would say, in my internships. And then thereafter, our last year of pharmacy school, every 6 months, or it depends on the rotations, but we have rotations. And so that's basically just to get experience, and they're in all realms. So one of them I did at a pharmaceutical company called Vertex here in Boston. And then I did one at a CRO based in Manhattan. And so all those three internships together definitely set me up well in terms of skill for coming in as a regulatory writer. Again, I kind of mentioned this, but I would say medical writing is definitely a great foundation. And if anyone's looking to either get into pharma or reg writing or kind of any realm, coming from multiple different backgrounds, medical writing is definitely a skill that I would say you need to have.
Yeah, wow. That's you have touched and seen a lot of different places along the way. Uh,
Definitely. And that's definitely something that I would tell others to do. Pharmacy students aren't on the bench, but it was awesome to see that because that's part of it. And the drugs, even if you're a retail pharmacist and that's what you're dispensing, knowing that, 20, 30 years ago, the process was XYZ is, eye-opening at the least, but I think it can never hurt to have kind of those varied, diverse experiences.
yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned that you have been working for Aura Inc. for about 2 months now, you said. So that puts you square in the middle of a pandemic timeline. Um, what was hunting for a job in the middle of a pandemic like? I can't imagine it was the most friendly of job markets.
No, definitely not. I would say, of course, as everyone knows, post-grad job searching in and of itself is difficult. And just to kind of lay out a little picture of what my situation was, for PharmD students to get into the pharmaceutical industry, they now have fellowships, which is the closest thing is like a residency, but for the industry. So it's 1 to 2 years. There's different programs at different companies, and the whole process of interviewing happens at a huge convention in December. And within like 3 days, you go from having preliminary interviews to getting a position. So it's very, very fast. And this year it happened in Vegas. And I went and I interviewed for these positions. And I remember, I think it was 26 interviews in 3 days. So it's insane. My second day, I remember I had 12. It was just back to back to back, except lunch because no one schedules lunch. And it was craziness from like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But a great experience nonetheless. But coming out of that, I had actually landed a fellowship that I denied because I was looking to kind of be in a little bit different of a place that I had received in terms of the position. And I was looking for full-time positions. But that window, of course, it's like a normal job searching window. So no one is really hiring in December for starting in May or June. So I'd kind of taken a risk in denying that. And then once COVID hit and I was job searching, I was like, okay, now what? And I did see kind of all the positions deplete. I was talking to recruiters, I was talking to people in my network, and everyone was just kind of like, I don't know. And especially for all of the like entry level positions, they were kind of going away because companies were wanting to fill their exec positions to kind of lay out strategy in this time, which of course makes sense. I don't blame anyone for that. But nonetheless, on the job searching side, definitely made it a lot more difficult. So it was about a month and a half, 2 months between like COVID really hitting and the job process. And I had to take many steps. And I have a video on this on my channel actually, but the one thing was really having confidence. I personally would say I never truly have a confidence issue, but my lowest point was definitely while job searching, just because you already get so many rejection letters. And everyone's like, it's not your fault. Like the company's not in a position to hire you and all these things, but really understanding and knowing that you've put in the time in the last 6 years and that will pan out is really hard to understand in the moment. So that is definitely my biggest piece of advice, if anyone is even still going through it, because of course it's still a very hard time. And the rest will kind of happen. Like you've put in your time, it'll pan out and the right position will come to you. And that's also kind of one thing in terms of how I ended up at Aura. That was not necessarily a position I was looking for. And like I said, I wasn't necessarily targeting reg writing, but in the end, it just panned out when I had my interviews, when I had the actual job description and talked to people about what I'd be doing. It was exactly what I wanted to do. So just kind of making sure you keep your opportunities open, and also don't let your own self-confidence be shot because of yourself. That's like that main point I would like to hone in on there.
Right. No, and that's I know I'm sure plenty of our viewers have been through long and arduous job searches. I've been on the market a few times myself, and there is a certain point where there is a little bit of a switch, and it's like, I know it's not me, but it feels like it's me. I know it's not me, and it feels like it's me.
Yeah.
But there's especially now, there's just so much going on that's external to you. I think that's a really important piece of advice is to sort of be steadfast and know that things are going to pan out at some point.
Easier than done, definitely. But yes, hopefully this is helping someone there.
So you mentioned your channel and that you talk about this on your channel. Tell us a little bit more about that channel.
Sure.
What you did with it, what inspired it.
Yeah. I would say this channel kind of came about by accident. I am actually a dancer, and so I have been posting dance videos on my dance channel for many years now. So YouTube has always been a home of sorts, but I never thought to bring my professional life to it. And when I was at that convention in December, people talk about the convention as if it's a really big event, which it is. It's like 10,000-15,000 people. And when you're going for your interviews, it's obviously nerve-wracking. There's people just hustling, bustling. You're going from interview to interview. And to actually perform well within that anxious type of environment is something that people are really nervous about. So people kind of say, maybe you should go the year before just to like see how it is to like get your nerves out so that the next year you're not like phased by the busyness of it. And to me, it seems very not feasible to do that for many students because you're paying for everything. You're paying for the convention, your stay, your travel and everything just to kind of be at a convention that you're doing nothing at. So in my opinion, that doesn't seem very feasible. So when I was there, I was like, I'm going to just vlog this full experience. And so I did. And that was the first video on my channel. And then after that, I just did some here and there. I had a very strict schedule for my dance channel, but I didn't for my pharmacy channel. But once I started posting some videos, it was like maybe 3 or 4. I noticed that even if I had 4 or 5 or 6 viewers, those 6 people were invested and they were asking questions, they were commenting, they were emailing me and contacting me directly and asking sound questions. I'm a student at so-and-so, I am wondering about this and this and this, saw your blog. And I was like, oh wow, like even if 2 people, 3 people are watching it, it's actually impacting those 2 or 3 people. So I was like, I definitely think I have a lot to talk about. So I made a schedule and I've been uploading regularly since, and I'm only still at like 7 or 8 videos. But it's been a great journey so far. My whole purpose is just to kind of course, share my journey. And I think that like I've mentioned now 4 times, taken a very unconventional route in a lot of ways, and kind of like what you guys are trying to do here, kind of show what's possible on my channel through, various things, and of course some professional tips and study tips and things like that. Will kind of chime in, but overall, I just want to help people kind of get to their goals like I did.
Well, that's really impressive and really admirable, and I think that that's something that is needed in a lot of different fields. Is actually something that makes entry accessible, and for somebody who doesn't have resources or doesn't have a lot of insight, or is maybe a first generation student or something, like that is a big black box, right? Like who do you talk to? What's the normal order of operations? And there are so many idiosyncrasies specific to different fields and areas of work that's I think really crucial.
Yeah, and I would say like people are starting to do it, especially like I would say MDs. You see a lot more on YouTube or social media. I don't see many pharmacists out there, so that's definitely also a point of interest. But for me, it was just I love YouTube. It's my home. I joke, and it's not a joke at all. I don't watch TV. I watch YouTube. So for me, it's like, okay, I know it. I'm going to share what I know on it as well.
No, that's why, I mean, we are the YouTube generation, right? Like who do you know that actually still has cable TV, right? No, I'm kidding. My family still has cable TV. I can't. So we've got about a minute left here. I do want to ask about mentorship and what role that has played in your career, and what it looks like moving forward for you.
Yeah, I'm really glad that this is the last question in terms of content, because I think this is something that people don't talk about often enough. And it's something I maybe realized late in the game. It's never too late, but definitely didn't realize it, freshman year of college. And that was when I was looking for that first internship in the industry. And I didn't know anyone in the industry. My family doesn't come from that kind of background. And I was kind of lost. And I realized that everything is based upon networking, and not only who you know, but who can vouch for you. And that's where that mentorship piece came in. And that's when I really realized I need to work on those relationships and have people who know me in my professional life, who can not only vouch for me, but who I can bounce ideas off of. So if there's one piece of advice, I can give there, I would say is definitely look for those people who can act as mentors. And if you are looking for someone to be a mentor and they're just not, it's okay. You'll find that person eventually, but actually actively looking for that is a step in and of itself. For me, it's helped me so much along the way. And I think that, like I mentioned, it's been so nice to just bounce thoughts off of people who are in the professional roles that I would like to see myself in, especially. And kind of like you said, I was definitely that lost fish who didn't know anything. And these are the types of people who can help you. So I would say it is so essential to have a mentor, and it's definitely helped me along the way.
Yeah, and that's I think that's you mentioned something important there too. Is it's okay if somebody isn't the mentor or isn't one. It's actually important to have multiple mentors, and and that has been something that's been helpful for me as well. So we're at our 17 minutes. I know it's short, but thank you so much for joining us today and telling us about your journey. Again, if you guys didn't hear it, the YouTube channel where you can tune in for Divyanka's advice and tips and tricks and all things pharmacy and career related is FocusRX. I think we'll probably post that link along with this. So in the meantime, thank you so much. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and tune in next time. Thank you, Divyanka, for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ben.
Okay, take care.